Welcome everyone who is joining us from your computer screens. Welcome to this debate on the 15-minute city. My name is Simon Hansen. I'm the Managing Director of Climate Solutions and Networks in the C40 Cities Leadership Group. For those of you who are maybe not very familiar with C40 Cities, we are a network of 97 of the world's largest cities that are working collaboratively to tackle the climate crisis. And it's really a great pleasure for me to invite you to this debate because the 15-minute city is a concept, an approach to urban planning, which is on the rise in cities all over the world. And today we will hear from distinguished experts, from city representatives, from business leaders that will explain what is the 15-minute city, but also why is it we are seeing that this is becoming increasingly important in big cities, in regions across the globe. We are broadcasting from Blocks Hub. Blocks Hub is a hub or a community of organizations like C40, but also businesses that all focus on urban sustainability. And C40's office here in Denmark is located in Blocks Hub, and we are very proud to be part of this community. Now, the context of the debate today is COVID-19. When the pandemic hit cities all over the world, mayors, they reached out to each other. They sought each other's advice. They all focused on how to ensure that as hopefully we're beginning to see a way out of the crisis, that we can make sure that the recovery is going to be green and just. And in C40, a group of the C40 mayors, they put together a task force to support each other and work together to identify what could be the solutions that can make cities built back better and greener. And one of the key recommendations that came out of that task force was exactly this 15-minute cities. This was a concept that mayors felt really could make a difference as they're trying to rebuild their urban societies and their economies, and to do it in a way that's equitable and creates better opportunities for everyone. And therefore, we are very proud to have a very strong panel today that will help us really dive deeper into this fascinating and really important concept of the 15-minute cities. But I'm equally proud to invite to the stage the moderator today, Helle Søholt, who is the founding partner and CEO of Gehl. Gehl Architects, a company that was founded more than 20 years ago together with Gehl. So Helle Søholt, without any further ado, I invite you to come to the stage.
Much, Simon, and thank you immensely for the invitation to join this panel as a moderator. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you joining from different parts of the world. Let me extend my warmest welcome to all of you in today's debate on urban societies and how cities are becoming more healthy, resilient, and accessible. This topic, as Simon was alluding to, is very, very close to my heart. We have been working on this topic for the past 20 years. My name is Helle Søholt, as Simon was saying. I'm the CEO in my everyday job and the founding partner of Gehl. We are an urban strategy and design firm focused on making cities for people. And by that we mean cities that are healthy, equitable, and not least sustainable. So that is very related to today's topic of the 15-minute city. We've always had a strong focus on public life and on public spaces and mobility. We've also been working in various ways with the four speakers that will be joining us today. So I am very happy to be able to introduce and moderate this panel of very distinguished speakers. So now, turning into our panel, I would like to first introduce Carlos Moreno. He is the scientific director of Panthéon Sorbonne University-IAE in Paris, the business school of Sorbonne. In addition to being a globally recognized scientist, Carlos is a close advisor to the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, and was a true source of inspiration for the Mayor Hidalgo's recent implementation and campaign for running as mayor again, announcing the desire to make the capital, La Ville de Promaxi, a 15-minute city. Our second speaker today is Jette Jørgensen. Jette is joining us from Denmark, and she's the expansion director and manager of Ingka Group, formerly known as IKEA, the world's largest home furnishing retailer. Jette has been leading Ingka's group expansion agency since 2016, strategically growing the IKEA retail business in existing and new markets. So this panel is combining both public sector, you could say, advisors, and private sector. Next up, we have Clara, Muzzio, Minister of Public Space and Urban Hygiene in the city of Buenos Aires. She has been instrumental in the shaping of her city's public spaces over the last 10 years, aiming to improve its accessibility, walkability, and overall quality towards a human scale. Buenos Aires is one of the 97 cities that Simon mentioned is part of C40. And Mayor Horacio Rodriguez Loredas serves on the C40 steering committee as the vice chair for Latin America. And finally, we are coming back to Denmark. I'd like to introduce our fourth and last panelist, Niels Lund, the Vice President for Global Prevention and Health Promotion in Novo Nordisk, a global healthcare company with more than 90 years of innovation and leadership in diabetes care. Niels is responsible for the development and implementation of Novo Nordisk's global partnership strategies in the field of prevention and health promotion, including the Global Cities Changing Diabetes Partnership Program. So welcome to all, and I'm really looking forward to this next hour and to the upcoming debate. Before we get started, I'd like to encourage all of you out there joining us today to log into YouTube and to share your reflections on the way and thoughts throughout this session. We will capture the debate today and post it together with the recording on the C40 Knowledge Hub. Now, with no further ado, I just want to check up whether we have Carlos joining us. I believe that Carlos will be joining us from an airport. Are you with us, Carlos? Fantastic. Well, I would like to now begin our first round of questions. And I'd like to start with you, Carlos. Living in a city, to many that means accepting a certain level of dysfunction, you could say, or mess. Long commutes, noisy streets, underutilized spaces, you name it. You want to change this and have been driving this force behind the development of the 15-minute city in Paris and worldwide. So now with Anne Hidalgo's prioritization of the 15-minute city in her re-election campaign in 2020, can you tell us a little bit about how this became a political priority in Paris?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your kind invitation. It's a real pleasure. I'm so sorry because I am at the French airport of see.Chapter de Gehl, but I could discuss with you about this crucial topic, the 15-minute city in Paris. Of course, I am very happy because Anne Hidalgo embraced this idea, the 15-minute city, even before the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Anne Hidalgo was totally convinced that we must change our relationships with the city of Paris and the material resources for living differently. On the one hand, for fighting against the climate change, and on the other hand, to change radically our urban mindset. In the city of Paris and in general, we consider that we need to develop a new relationship, a new solidarity between our neighbor and to develop as well a strong social link. This concept in the city of Paris is based on 4 key elements. The first one, ecology. We need to have green vegetation, water, pedestrianized street, to develop bike lanes rather than cars. In the city of Paris, we have currently more than 1,000 kilometers dedicated for bike lanes totally protected. We have decided to transform the iconic squares, the roundabout for cars, now in the green square, in the green locations for people. The second point is the proximity. We need to offer the new services in the vicinity for reduced distances and for developing the possibility for work closer using new technologies. Of course, with the pandemic COVID-19 crisis, this idea of use the proximity for working is totally accepted. But the proximity is more than to work closer. The proximity is to use the different material resources or materials more and better. This is the case in the city of Paris, for example, with the schoolyards. Because we have decided to open the schoolyards for hosting other activities different of pedagogical activities. The idea is the multi-purpose function for using more and better each one of our square meters. The third point is the solidarity for create the strong relationships, the strong social links between the inhabitants of the district and to develop different activities for taking care of kids, of elderly people, for developing new business model, for developing new local jobs, for developing the local shops, for promoting the vibrant activities. For that, for example, the city of Paris has a commercial property in charter to manage the square meters for renting it with a price below the price of the speculative real market. The fourth point is the citizen participation. The Anne Hidalgo is totally committed for involving the inhabitants in the transformation of the city of Paris. We have a very, very powerful leverage, the participatory budget, in order to encourage the inhabitants to propose projects and to be funded by the city of Paris. We have the biggest participatory budget for a city in the world, 800 million euros per year, only dedicated for proposing the local projects in a general votation for designing the project and to choose the winners for implementing in the city. For finishing, we consider that ecology, a low carbon city, proximity to explore our vicinity, solidarity for developing a strong social link, the citizen participation for involving inhabitants. We have for developing the 15-minute city to implement in the background the key word, the urban common good. If we wanted to fight against gentrification, we need to propose the guideline for the 50-minute city with the urban common good the material resources, the immaterial resources, in order to preserve these resources of the speculative market for sharing these resources in order to develop a 15-minute city for whole inhabitants in the city. Ecology, proximity, solidarity, citizen participation, and the urban common good. This is necessary for elaborating an ambitious roadmap, because the 50-minute city, I said clearly, is not a magic wand. This is not a marketing model. This is not only a motto for having in election. The 50-minute city, it's a journey. It's a journey during several years for transforming radically our urban lifestyle. We need to fight against CO2 emission. We need to develop a green city. We need to develop a new social link. We need to use more and better the building rather than to continue to create so far. And we need to involve the citizens in this transformation. This is an ambitious roadmap. We needed to invest money in the 50-minute city only for redeploying our infrastructures, only for using differently, only for developing this love of places of each one of inhabitants. This is the decision of the Mayor Anne Hidalgo, because she announced on June 1st the new ambitious roadmap for the next years, with a radical transformation of the management of the city of Paris, because just in a nutshell, the 50-minute city in Paris is the big bang of the proximity. This is the possibility for a new urban policy based on a massive decentralization in order to create a new urban movement towards a polycentric city, towards a vibrant city, toward a local economy, not in a 50-minute city for me isolated, but in a multi-center city with the multi-services for developing in a more vibrant and livable and sustainable city.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for setting us off. And as you mentioned, this is not only about urban principles, it is indeed also about urban values, such as the urban common good. We'll come back to discussing that later on. But thank you for sharing those insights with us. It is truly wonderful to hear. And let me now move on to Jette Jørgensen from Ingka Group. Jette, you represent a company, I believe, that many, and I speak, I think, for all that are listening today, associate with very large stores, primarily, I guess, also outside cities, or at least in the fringe of the urban centers. So could you tell us a little bit more about the steps that IKEA is taking to integrate stores into the urban fabric and to contribute to this green and thriving city neighborhoods, the type of localism that we heard Carlos talk about?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this C40 panel. It's truly an inspiration for me. So my name is Jette and Jørgensen, and I am the Global Expansion Manager for Ingka, representing here the brand of IKEA Retail. So when I started at IKEA, we had 51 stores in the world. Today we have in Ingka, in our retail system, we have more than about 390 stores in 32 countries. So a lot has happened since then. So, and of course, with this many IKEA stores in the Ingka group, we also play a very important role when it comes to reducing IKEA's climate footprint. Like the cities in the C40, Ingka is also have chosen to commit fully to the Paris commitment or agreement. And of course, we can also use the size of our business to find scalable solutions to help solve the climate crisis that we have in front of us. Then about bringing IKEA closer to the many people in the cities, and also depending on the needs, what are the different formats that we have been looking into. So we are actually testing different formats in IKEA right now. So for example, in Tokyo, in New York, in Paris, in Madrid, in Copenhagen, and also in Oslo, just some of the cities where we are testing new formats and coming even closer to the many people. And it is not just about reducing our regular stores down in size. It is actually also new formats when we are talking about planning studios or when we are talking about IKEA shops. Then we are also working with the revitalizing areas and also supporting local communities. So something that has always been close to our hearts, where we look into the existing structure instead of building new, what was also just mentioned here. And for example, Hammersmith in London, where we are reusing an existing building, which is about 40 years old. So it also leads to a sustainable outcome, and also by working with the local authorities and also with the community, we have identified like a post office, a green roof, and a meeting place that should be accessible for all. So we all would like to have some more green in our lives. And also when we're looking into Rivoli in Paris, we have acquired a 150-year-old building where we will also implement an IKEA shop. And then we have also acquired a building in San Francisco called 6x6. It was an existing building that has been standing there for some years. And now we will actually use that for an IKEA store, and we will also have some other retailers and other things together with us. So we also offer new and improved home delivery with our sustainable EV trucks and bikes. So for example, in our IKEA store in Karlsruhe in Germany, we have a tailor-made delivery concept now with cargo bikes and e-cargo trailers available for all customers. And then in New York and in Los Angeles, we are working together with eBay and Etsy to sponsor a zero-emission delivery zone in a highly polluted area, and that is really to support the health of the local community. So that is a bit about what we are doing.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Jette, for sharing those insights. There is definitely a lot of change happening in the retail space, not least due to COVID. The activity patterns between central locations and outer locations are rapidly changing. And of course, private sector and public sector must come together in tackling the climate crisis as we are talking about it right now. But let me change to you, Clara Muzzio, Minister of the City of Buenos Aires. You have been focusing on developing citywide strategies and strategic planning to improve urban areas in the city, improving the quality of life of residents, and to ensure accessible public spaces. We've been very proud at Gehl, also having been advising the city on the 10-year strategy plan. Your ministry focusing on promoting environmental areas, applying the concept of the city at a human scale. And I think a lot of what we are talking about here, the 15-minute city, is really also about the city at a human scale. So can you explain us a little bit more about how your priorities are and how the City of Buenos Aires is actually reasoning around this topic?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, Helle. It's a pleasure for me to be here today and to share with all of you these thoughts. For over 10 years, our priority has been to make Buenos Aires a people-friendly city so that our public spaces were accessible, safe, sustainable, and for everyone. That is why all of our projects are based on walkability and sustainability. It's our fundamental state policy. As we all know, as Carlos said, cities are the main responsible of climate change, and the administration of urban centers that are growing and changing is a huge challenge. But it's also a wonderful opportunity to improve current conditions and future plans within our respective countries and around the world. We need to rethink cities and give them new purpose, taking into account first and foremost the needs of the citizens who live in them and move around them on a daily basis. Personally, I can say Buenos Aires is doing its homework. As a member of the C40 group, we are amongst the cities that are most committed to environmental care. And we are true leaders on the issue within our region. Our model for a city on a human scale began with Plan Microcentro. We work with Gehl architects. In 2012, we generated a huge positive impact in environmental terms in the center of the city of Buenos Aires. We improved mobility for over 1 million people who move in the area daily. We created a mostly pedestrian zone with more than 70 blocks of pedestrian priority. And of course, more pedestrian streets means more accessibility, less cars, and therefore less pollution. But Plan Microcentro was just the beginning. We started to work on the rest of the city, looking to recover different hubs, streets, squares, improving their accessibility and adding green areas. A few examples of this transformation are Corrientes Avenue and our Chinatown, but many others around the city. But the pandemic tested many of our projects and challenged us even more. We had to quickly adapt in order to guarantee our citizens' safety and to ensure they were able to shop for essentials as close to their homes as possible, avoiding the use of public transportation. That is why we continue to promote walkability and the use of public space for grocery shopping, for example, through the city fairs, where neighbors can buy fresh quality products at a low price near their homes. We turned 100 blocks of avenues and streets throughout the city's neighborhoods into pedestrian-only areas so people were able to cover their basic needs close to home. And the funny thing is, when I took office as minister in 2019, at the end of 2019, I presented a project to turn 48 streets into pedestrian green streets, one per neighborhood. And during the pandemic, we were able to identify more than 100 blocks to work on for this project. We also boosted the use of parks. They were suddenly the stage for birthday parties, weddings, and all kinds of sporting and recreational activities. And we also work alongside the private sector to give them different options, work with during these difficult times, allowing restaurants, for example, to use more public space. That is what we work for, to develop more pedestrian areas in every commune with quality public spaces and to encourage recreational, cultural, and commercial use, but also to foster identity and a sense of belonging vital to any 15-minute project.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's fantastic to hear how you are both continuing the long-term plan, but also using the pandemic and the situation to be proactive and do a lot of implementation across the entire city. That is truly amazing and very inspirational. So thanks for sharing that. And then to our final panelist, Niels Lund, thanks for joining us. You represent a global healthcare company, Novo Nordisk, and work with cities around the world in addressing global health issues, such as, of course, urban diabetes. So what are the challenges that you see in cities, and how do they vary across the cities that you work with?
Well, thank you, Helle, and good to see you again, even at a distance. And thank you, C40 and Blocks Up, for the opportunity to join this discussion. In my daily work, I'm responsible for Novo Nordisk's long-term ambition of preventing the rise of type 2 diabetes and obesity. And prevention is really a big part of that. For some years, it's been recognized that not enough is known about the dynamics of how urban development can drive diabetes and obesity, and how it can also on the positive side deliver potential health benefits to people living in the city. That's why we, back in 2014, almost 7 years ago, 7 years ago, together with the Steno Diabetes Center Copenhagen and University College London, launched the Cities Changing Diabetes program, which now is a network of 37 cities that are home to more than 200 million people. We have learned that from the cities in the network, the importance of driving systemic change to tackle diabetes and obesity through integrated responses that touches on all aspects of life, urban planning, food systems, community development, and so on. And this can only be addressed by enlisting city leaders. And I think what we see is that mayors increasingly are coming to understand that the decisions made about how a city is designed and run does have an impact on health, and vice versa also, as COVID has demonstrated. From the design of transport systems and how citizens access healthy food to responses to other important issues from climate change to social inequalities. In order to guide city leaders and how to bend the curve on diabetes and obesity, we have developed, based on experience, a series of guiding principles. Importance of focus on prevention and well-being in addition to the treatment of the disease, taking into account the social and cultural factors that put people at greater risk, form collaboration with communities and partners, and also build health into all policies, probably more important than ever. So one might ask, and that's also what you did, these principles are applied, why do we still see a rise in the number of people with obesity and diabetes? And I think there's a challenge which relates to the what, health itself. Health inequalities exist within cities and between neighborhoods. Some cities are struggling with poor awareness of lifestyle impact and related consequences. And the culture of health, perception of risk, and the hierarchy of importance look very different from city to city and from neighborhood to neighborhood within the cities. And then there's the challenge related to the how do we actually address it? It is challenging to work with systemic changes, both in health and in climate change. And city development is often seen and managed in isolation or even in a silo without concern for the impact on health. We see improvements and we see positive stories, but it's still very much done in isolation. Cities and neighborhoods within the cities are diverse, and it can be difficult to be successful with scaling generic solutions. You can always design a local solution, but taking it to scale is often quite difficult. And finally, there are so many stakeholders in a city that it takes time, resources, and most importantly, trust to fully understand what the health challenges are and for whom and what should be done with it. And I think all of these challenges or learnings, both positive and negative, also are relevant in the context of designing the 15-minute city and to make sure that it appropriately addresses and improves health. Thanks.
Thank you, Niels. And thank you for bringing us back to the people perspective and connecting both the hyperlocal with the bigger city scale. That's so important. So this actually marks our first round of questions, but hang in there, we'll do a second one. So I'll go back to you, Carlos. You're still with us, I can see from the airport, so that's great. Cities across the globe are looking at implementing the 15-minute city, but how do you see the global impact of the model that you have also been advocating for? And in addition, and as cities across the world look towards the concept, can you tell us one thing that people often misunderstand about this model? I think, Carlos, you need to unmute. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Wonderful.
Thank you for your question. I said that it's an honor for me to see today this 50-minute city concept has been becoming very popular or worldwide. And of course, when I'm coined 5 years ago this concept, I considered that we needed to, on the one hand, identify that the 15-minute city concept is a journey. This is a radical transformation of our urban life. And in just 3 minutes, I could summarize 3-4 elements. The first one, we need to keep in mind that we want, with the 50-minute city, to develop a convergence between a new ecological, economical, and social attitude for our cities. The low carbon city, the economy for fighting against poverty, and a social attitude for develop the social link, social inclusions are strong linked. We need, with the 50-minute city, to build cities livable, equitable, and buildable. The second point, we needed to implement the 50-minute city with an ambitious policy around the urban common. If we wanted to avoid gentrification, our enemy for the 15-minute city is the gentrification. It is not possible to develop a 50-minute city only for the districts through money by making neighborhood unequal. The urban common good, this is a real commitment of the policymakers, of the local governance, of the mayors, of the president of the metropolis, in order to guarantee this equity for the totality of inhabitants in city. Don't forget that the 15-minute city is not my life in my 15-minute city. With my districts enclosed and isolated in this perimeter. Don't forget that on the contrary, we want to live in happy proximity to benefit the whole city better, and we want in reality shift the constrained mobility towards a chosen mobility. I think that we need to avoid consider that the 50-minute city is a collection of rural hamlets. The 15-minute city is not a tiny village as in the past. And it doesn't matter if it's 15, 10, 12, 22, 24. The crucial element for thinking 15-minute city is to think cities and territories in terms of proximities, in the plural proximities, multi-services, in terms of new uses, new economic models, in terms of making the best use of what exists to live nearby, but in a polycentric city. Don't forget, we want a polycentric city, multi-centered city. We want a vibrant city and not an unequal city. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Yes, we're definitely moving from thinking about density in the old terms, you could say, and moving towards this proximity in cities, that's for sure. Well, turning to you, Jette, again, from Ingka Group. Thinking about this topic, you talked about some of the actions that you are taking now, moving IKEA stores closer to residents in the big cities. But could you talk a little bit more about your role as a company? What role can IKEA play when it comes to transforming urban areas?
Yes, Helle. So we actually go into the cities where we want to go in there as a good neighbor and also as a true partner when it comes to people and also the planet positive. Because it is like a red thread in our values. It comes from our values, our vision, our strategies, and also the actions that we do every day in our business. So we are opening the city stores in locations very close to public transport. So that is super important for us in the heart of the cities, where people can actually access our city stores when both by foot, by bike, or even by public transport, as I said, because the customers can then order their items with a zero-emission transport to their home. And for example, to give some examples here today also, we have the IKEA Vienna Westbahnhof that is situated right next to a train station. It's a 7-level store, so and with a rooftop terrace with trees, with seating areas, with play areas, and with diverse gastronomic offer. So we have involved the public and also the local authorities from the very beginning to get connections and also to get ideas for cooperation here. So we host public information. We have events for the neighbors. We also other interested people every month. They can come and hear about the project step by step. And they can also visit the construction site and see what is actually happening there and get a guided tour, and we offer that both for students and for neighbors. Then looking into our IKEA store that we are now going to build also in Copenhagen, which is also a super interesting project. It's placed by Dybbølsbro, so with thousands of pedestrians and also bicycles passing by every day, so it's like in the nerve center, you can say. So besides the unique location here, this will also include a restaurant, a cafe, and it will be an external partner for a public accessible rooftop park, because that has also been a wish from the local authorities and also from the public, making it a new meeting place in the city. So in addition to that, we will also have 760 bike parking lots. So we will have inspiration, and we will have, of course, solutions for city homes and offer a one-day delivery on their doorsteps. So if we're looking into one of our most immediate goals to achieve the 100% electrical or other zero-emission home deliveries and services by 2025, right now we have actually deployed electrical vehicles in plus 20 countries. So for example, in Amsterdam, we now have reached the 100 zero emission for home deliveries next spring. In Paris, we will have achieved it. We have 80% right now, and we will. So we are getting there. So really moving on this topic, and then we are also testing other solutions, and that can be like electrical cargo bikes that we are testing in Spain. We are also in India testing rickshaws deliveries for our Indian market, and then we have even been testing also water deliveries in France. So a lot of things are happening on this topic.
Thank you, Jette. And I love the concept of the neighbor and the fact that you're really strongly advocating for this partnership between cities, companies like yourself, and citizens. And I came to think about in the Danish language, we have a term called naboskab, which basically means neighbor create or neighbor creation, which is sort of an active word that maybe can talk about some of the partnership roles that you're talking about here. So that's wonderful. Turning over to you, I think we need to discuss a little bit, going back to the city. Minister Muzzio, it is clear that Buenos Aires is leading when it comes to the 15-minute city. You've done so much incredible work in terms of focusing on public spaces. It is very, very challenging because you're working across different sectors and different silos within the city of Buenos Aires itself. But as you look to the other cities in South America, what is going to be the sort of main challenges as you see it across other cities?
Well, I think that the main goal is to have a clear vision of your city model. I have worked with Mayor Rodriguez Larreta for many years, and we are certain that it's the type of city we want to leave behind for our children and future generations. Is greener, more resilient, accessible, and enjoyable city. And all governments areas work together in a cross-cutting way to develop, implement, and sustain these policies. Of course, the transportation area, the economic development, urban development, and the Minister of Public Space. We discussed a little bit. But it's also vital to listen to what citizens have to say. It's one of our fundamental commitments because you gain a different perspective and you are better able to improve conditions. Gender policies that run through all of our programs are a perfect example. It is about time that cities embrace gender perspective. Something that it historically has been set aside, no? Through our citizen participation area, we work with citizens, co-creating the best possible projects for each specific neighborhood. Having a close relationship with citizens, the private sector, and social organization allows governments implement the best policies, possible policies. Flexibility is also key. We need to adapt to variables we cannot control, as we did when COVID first hit, by working with health authorities, for example, to rethink our use of public spaces during the pandemic. We adapt the public space for that. And for the second part of the question, what every city on the planet has in common is what makes it human. Quality public spaces, so being able to enjoy and share them. I invite every city in Latin America to adopt the 15-minute city model, focusing on people, on transforming cities in a way that it's possible to connect with nature and harboring local economies also. And for the challenges, I think budget is a good example. That's why temporary pandemic urban initiatives are so important, because they allow us to implement urban interventions that are easy to replicate quickly at low cost, while at the same time working toward our vision of our model city and assess their impact. And for me, it's also inspiring to share experiences with other cities, to participate in this type of events, listening to different points of view so we can continue to transform cities so that they are basically a better place to live in and healthier and more resilient.
Thank you so much, Minister Muzzio. Again, I think it's brilliant that you touch again on the aspect of engagement and participation, and perhaps this 15-minute city concept will in fact bring us closer to understanding cities locally. So with that, you're the last one again, Niels, but you get to tell us a little bit more about how you see the 15-minute model benefiting the health of urban residents that I know that you're working with, and also thinking about what are the steps that Novo Nordisk is now taking to contributing to the transformation that you were talking about before, to becoming healthier, greener, and more sustainable.
Yes, it's not like the work starts today. I think we've been at it for quite some time, but I think the 15 minutes city framework is an opportunity to put a closer spotlight on and satisfy our curiosity in terms of how design and redesign of the city can harvest the potential of health benefits and how that might be the case. We already know that closer proximity of essential destinations, that provides an opportunity to move away from private motor vehicles towards walking, bicycle, and in combination with public transport. And that can increase physical activity in connection with mobility. That's almost like an easy math problem. So it's pretty obvious. And we have actually been at it for quite some time in exploring this, co-benefit of climate and health by moving from private motor vehicle to transportation to walking and bicycling, together with C40, where we've looked at how we can map these co-benefits of climate and health benefits by increasing active mobility. And we also know from a number of foodscapes assessments done in partnership with your company, Gehl, that easier access and visibility of healthier food options and efforts to involve the community in co-designing solutions can really be a powerful means of change. And there's interesting data both from Bogota and Houston and Philadelphia in that connection. But I think we should also be aware that the 15-minute city gone wrong is a city where enclaves worsen the already existing inequalities between and in neighborhoods. And I think that's also what Dr. Moreno addressed a little bit earlier. When designed right, there's an opportunity to improve social cohesion and create local resilience that will shield us from further future threats to our health and well-being. And to be very practical, we actually would like to understand this better, and we will be co-hosting a workshop together with BlogsHub later in the year to do a deep dive on how the 15-minute city model can accelerate global impact-driven sustainable urban development with a focus on health, because we're particularly interested in health, but not to exclude other topics here, but really with a focus on health, and thereby contribute to the transformation of cities to become healthier. So stay tuned. We're not done with this concept from our side. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Niels. And thank you to all 4 panelists. It's been wonderful to hear how there is so much overlap, despite the fact that we are working on this topic from different angles, focusing on local human scale, the 15-minute neighborhood, we could maybe call it, being socially connected, inclusive, multimodal, accessible, healthy and active, and just in our sort of sustainable recovery. So thank you for our 4 panelists. And now I will like to turn to the C40 Executive Director, Mark Watts, who's joining us, who will share the vision C40 has for the 15-minute cities and some of the examples he has been seeing coming out of the cities for the past year.
Hello, everyone, and sorry I can't be joining this live. I'm going to very much look forward to watching the recording on the C40 Knowledge Hub, but it's such an extraordinary panel. I know I wouldn't be able to add much to what the other brilliant participants are going to say. So C40's focus on the 15-minute city really arose out of our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. First, the need to support our mayors to help each other to respond to the health crisis. But then very quickly what we saw was a desire to work together to ensure that we came out of the pandemic with a much greener, fairer model for what a city should look like, an agenda for what a green and just recovery from COVID-19 looks like. And for a very large number of our member cities, it's now clear that that green and just recovery agenda has at its heart the concept of a 15-minute city, a recovery that centres on health, equity and sustainability, but also a rethinking about the spatial organisation of the city. And I must say that is in large part to the extraordinary contribution of thinkers on this topic, most notably Carlos Moreno, who is part of the panel today, and then implementation under lots of different names right across the world, from, of course, Paris, and a big nod here to our former chair, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, but Buenos Aires, lots of Latin American cities, and spreading all around the world. We know that the guiding principles of the 15-minute city are proximity, access to everyday activities and needs within a short walk or bike ride. And that's really the reason why that model is capturing the imagination of city residents and their leaders, because it provides a glimpse of what a new normal with a better quality of life can be. One where commutes are much shorter, green spaces and fresh food are accessible, and of course, our city air is clean and safe. At C40, we see this as a model, a great catalyst for climate actions, because it's got very direct benefits for climate mitigation and adaptation. And also because that 15-minute city concept creates a model for sustainable and equitable neighbourhoods where citizens can thrive. So over the past year, we've been working with Carlos and his team and assembled a group of mayors and cities, some that have been implementing the kind of principle of a 15-minute city for a long time. Portland in the US, Melbourne, Australia, Paris, of course, in Europe. Cities whose mayors have explicitly said that they'd use that 15-minute city framework as a model for how they recover from COVID. So in Seattle or Milan, and others who are just getting started, but seeing the incredible potential of the approach. What unites, I think, all of the mayors who are focusing on this is the kind of paradigm around it, the focusing on underserved neighbourhoods that have got the most needs and prioritising interventions that improve people's living conditions without causing displacement and gentrification. Enabling a more local lifestyle whilst ensuring that 15-minute city neighbourhoods are, of course, well connected and part of the greater whole of the city, because it's that thriving kind of melting plot density of cities that really makes them such exciting places to live. Working with communities, therefore, to identify their local needs and interventions, so a very participatory style of government, and then implementing actions that bring us closer, faster, to zero carbon resilient future, which of course is C40's focus. So we very much believe in the 15-minute city concept at C40. We're developing an ambitious programme with the key players behind it, obviously including Carlos Moreno and his team. Delighted to collaborate with all of you on this programme and contribute to a global framework for sustainable and equitable 15-minute cities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Mark, and for those closing remarks. Thank you to all of you who have joined us from around the world today. If there is one thing that we can be grateful for, I guess, towards this last year's pandemic, is that now health equity and the focus on people have come back in with full force into our way of thinking about urban planning. And I think Minister Muzzio said it very well in her final question, that what brings us together and what unites us in all the cities working on this topic is in fact people, their needs, and the human scale, understanding that as a center point for how we develop our cities going forward. So I will for sure be excited to see how C40 cities are taking this forward, and I'll be waiting and exploring all of those public spaces in the future. Thank you so much for joining all of us.